CUC, we care about helping our customers. Here are some quick energy saving tips from CUC so you can use less energy and save money. Set your AC Smart thermostat to maintain an indoor temperature of 87 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you are away from home, and have the temperature cool to a comfortable 78 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you arrive home. Adding insulation can cut your cooling costs by 15 to 45%, depending on your home's size and current insulation. Focus on insulating your attic, walls, and windows for the best results. For your laundry, avoid over-drying clothes. Not only does it waste energy, but it also harms fabrics. Dry towels and heavier cottons separately from lighter weight fabrics to save energy. Your TV and gaming setup can be big energy consumers. Save costs by reducing in-game settings and turning off your console when not in use. Remember, every small step counts. Use energy wisely and make a big difference in your energy bills and the environment.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the 14th of 19 candidate forums for the 2025 general elections in the Cayman Islands, proudly hosted by the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce. My name is Omari Corbin, and I'm honored to serve as the current president of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm also pleased to be one of the panelists posing questions to our candidates this evening. Before we begin, I would like to sincerely thank the two West Bay South candidates, Mr. Andre Ebanks and Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, for accepting our invitation to participate in tonight's forum. By appearing together on this platform, you demonstrate a shared commitment to the democratic process and the people of West Bay South. Your presence signals your readiness to address the pressing issues raised by the community through a recent chamber survey, which has helped shape the questions we'll be asking tonight. While time won't allow us to cover every question submitted, we will do our best to focus on the topics identified as most important to the voters in the Cayman Islands as well as in West Bay South. When the Chamber was founded in 1965, it was built on the principles of supporting, promoting, and protecting the interests of our members and the wider community. Remaining strictly nonpartisan, we have proudly hosted these candidate forums every election year since 1988. We provided a neutral platform for 9 elections, allowing voters to hear directly from those seeking public office and helping our community make informed decisions on election day. The questions for tonight's forum have been carefully developed based on past and current chamber surveys, our 3-year advocacy agenda, and submissions from the public in various constituencies. No candidate has received these questions in advance, ensuring a fair and open discussion. As an organization committed to supporting a strong and sustainable Cayman, the Chamber's advocacy efforts focus on 3 key pillars: building a future-ready workforce, sustaining economic success, and advancing quality of life. The newly elected Chamber Council believes that these pillars are fundamental to the continued growth and prosperity of our islands. Looking ahead, the Chamber intends to collaborate with the incoming government to develop a government accountability scorecard, ensuring accountability and transparency. Additionally, we will seek representation on key government boards and authorities, as we believe our members bring valuable expertise that can help shape effective policies and initiatives. These forums require months of coordination, and I'd like to acknowledge the tremendous efforts of Will and our chamber staff who have worked diligently behind the scenes. I'd also like to express our gratitude to Ashley Furniture and Home Store, Foster's, CUC, and Logic for their generous sponsorship, which has made these forums possible. Additionally, We appreciate our media partners, Cayman Mall Road, Cayman Live TV, and ICCI-FM for broadcasting tonight's event. We are live streaming the forums, making it easier than ever for voters to tune in from the comfort of their homes. We hope this added accessibility encourages even greater participation in the democratic process. And now, it's time to begin. I'll turn the proceedings over to Will Panu, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, who will serve as tonight's moderator. Will outline the forum's rules and introduce our candidates from West Bay South.
Well, good evening, candidates. Thank you for participating in this forum. Tonight's forum is intended to give each of you an opportunity to present your positions on key issues. The rules are pretty simple. Each of you will be asked 12 questions. You'll have up to 2 minutes to respond to the question if you choose to do so. A bell will sound at the 2-minute mark, and I'd ask you at that particular time to wind up your response. Candidates who are asked to speak will not be interrupted by another candidate. You may disagree with another candidate's position or views during your response time, and all comments must be made hopefully with respect and within the allotted time. And at the end of the forum, each candidate will have 2.5 minutes for deliver a closing statement. I'd like to introduce tonight's candidates from West Bay South. We begin with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. He's running as an independent candidate. He brings a wealth of experience in national dialogue, public service, and private sector leadership. Best known as the longtime host of Talk Today, Sterling spent nearly 2 decades facilitating open, thoughtful conversations with Caymanians from all walks of life, building a reputation for integrity, reason, and respect. His professional career includes key roles in both government and finance. He has served as a senior internal auditor in the Cayman Islands government, a senior assistant secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, compliance officer at Bank of Butterfield, and commercial loan officer at Cayman National Bank. These roles reflect his deep understanding of Cayman's economic policy and community challenges. Sterling holds a degree in economics from the University of Tampa, where he was inducted into Omicron Delta Epsilon, the International Economics Honor Society, and received the Ethics and Business Award for his principled leadership. He has also contributed to charitable causes, including the Cayman Heart Fund, underscoring his belief in service and community well-being. His candidacy is driven by a desire to secure a better future for Caymanians through credible, competent, and collaborative leadership. He supports the establishment of district councils, transparent governance, and electoral reform to reflect national interests better. Sterling's vision focuses on unity, opportunity, and accountability. He believes in coalition building and independent thought, aiming to restore trust and promote a balanced, inclusive future for all. Welcome, Mr. Sterling. I said Mr. Sterling like that. Next is Mr. Andre Ebanks. He's running for the Caymanian Community Party for West Bay South. He is the leader of the TCC Party and was elected Member of Parliament West Bay South in 2021. Since entering politics, he has been driven by one primary goal: to strengthen the Caymanian community and ensure that Caymanians have a genuine opportunity to thrive. He was appointed Deputy Premier, Minister of Financial Services and Commerce, and Minister for Investment, Innovation, and Social Development. In these roles, he worked to support Cayman's economic growth while improving the lives of the most vulnerable. Andre brings a well-rounded background from both public service and private industry. He previously served as the Cayman Islands representative to the United Kingdom and Europe, where he championed the Cayman Islands' interests abroad. He also held senior roles in the Ministry of Financial Services and the Ministry of Community Affairs, leading departments focused on family services and social support. A qualified attorney, Andre earned a master's in legal practice from Manchester Metropolitan University and was called to the bar in 2006. He practiced law for over a decade at Appleby and Walker's, specializing in investment funds. As the leader of the TCCP, Andre is focused on addressing the high cost of living, improving housing affordability, reforming immigration, and enhancing education. Andre believes in a government built on integrity, transparency, and accountability, one that prioritizes the interests of Caymanians. Welcome, Mr. Andre.
Thank you, Will.
At this time, we're going to take a short commercial break, and when we return, we'll begin the questioning of each of our candidates this evening. Please stay tuned.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Why is my bill higher? These days, it might seem like the cost of everything is going up here in Cayman. When it comes to your energy bill, this may be no exception. You may be wondering why your bill is higher when you haven't done anything different in your home. Here are some common factors that will increase your energy usage. As temperatures outside increase, your air conditioning unit has to run longer to keep your house cool, even if you haven't adjusted the thermostat. During the summer months, cooling your home can make up more than half of your energy bill. It's important to maintain your AC so that it can function as efficiently as possible. Changing your AC filters can also help with ensuring units are functioning properly. Remember, for every degree you turn up your thermostat, you can save on your monthly energy cost. Turn off your AC when no one is home. Thermostat should not be set any lower than 78 degrees. Also consider closing blinds and drapes on the sunny side of your home. This will help reduce the temperature inside your home. Remember to consider energy waste. Think about the items in your home that are using energy, like gaming computers and ceiling fans. Always unplug and turn these items off when they are not in use or needed. This will help you conserve. Now that you have some energy saving tips, you can track your consumption daily on MyCUC. Learn more at www.cuc-cayman.com.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for West Bay South. We've introduced the candidates for this evening. Now I'd like to introduce our two panelists, include Mr. Mike Gibbs, who's the past president of the Chamber, and Mr. Amari Corbin, the president of the Chamber. I'll turn it over to Amari for the first question.
Thanks, Will. Sterling, we'll start with you for question number one. Why have you decided to run in this election, and how do you plan to represent the people of West Bay South if elected?
This election, like many, but perhaps more than the past, is pivotal, really a critical eve in our country's development, physically, economically, socially. And now some of the changes that are necessary in our Constitution need to be championed by political leadership with a political will, not looking to pander, placate, or pacify voter or special interests. It's imperative that we are willing to bridge that proverbial divide that seemingly is existing within many of the polarized communities, perhaps as a consequence of the introduction of party systems, perhaps further made worse by the adoption of the one man, one vote. West Bay South is a great example of a community that could be, when unified, so powerful. The demographic of West Bay South, the statistical profile of their sort of socioeconomic bracket indicates that that community, through its employment primarily in the financial services sector, through its contributions to charitable organizations, and the proliferation of education, can serve as an example to uplift and personify what Cayman was when it was unified. We need leadership that is not looking at a long-term political career, a leadership that is accessible, leadership that recognizes the importance of international representation as local participation. For me, it is not about individuals. It's about empowerment. It's not about looking at what has been done, but about what we can do when we come together as a people. Walking about West Bay South in particular, we see how communities are affected by the same thing: crime, cost of living, the consequences of either being unemployed, underemployed, the challenges that our youth face relative to opportunities for education and employment, entrepreneurship. We see the growing and increasing concerns relative to litter, to the seamless proliferation of the community's lack of dedication to a country simply because we have become individualized. That polarized community isn't just symbolized by the bridge, literally the bridge that is there between South, right? We can walk, we can talk, but it's time for us now to unite, and I think this is the opportunity for someone. I'll be almost 60 next election. Think about that. The time now is for our youth to be empowered, for us as the older heads to set an example and to be prepared to pass the mantle.
Thank you, Sterling. Andre?
Thank you, Omari. Thank you to the Chamber for organizing this forum. And good evening, West Bay South, Cayman, and Caymanians overseas. It has been the honor of my professional life to be the MP for West Bay South. This is the first of 2 forums for the Chamber that they've organized. Next week will be the leaders' debate. But as we focus on West Bay South, which we're sitting in right now, I want to say to West Bay South, and indeed to Cayman, I don't know if any of you have ever read the book A Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. There are passages in that book that speak to when you have found your life's purpose, your heart skips an additional beat. Your spirit carries you as if you're not working at all. As I've said to many of you in your homes, I have found my life's purpose, which is to serve you, make your life better, and make rules and have projects and initiatives to make Cayman stronger and fairer. The evidence of that is the reason why I'm running for re-election. And the evidence of that is contained in the body of work that has already occurred. At an international level, well documented. At a country level, well documented, with over 50 pieces of legislation in one term where I had 2 ministries. At a district level, where there have been cleanups, direct support, back-to-school programs, a plethora of road improvements, drainage, debris cleanups, constituent meetings, and regular constituency meetings. I therefore commit to you that if you want to see that body of work continue and have me work in my life's purpose to continue to serve you, re-elect Andre Ebanks on the 30th of April.
Thank you, Andre.
Good evening, candidates. This second question will be addressed to Andre first, and is moving into the area of national issues. And the question is, what are the top 3 national issues you would prioritize if elected, and why?
Thank you, Mike, for the question. What the public will soon see from the Caymanian Community Party Manifesto is that there will be 8 priorities. There are 8 ministers, and all need to be working at pace. But to answer the question specifically, putting my social development minister hat back on, I would highlight 3 in particular: the cost of living, access to housing, and all wrapped into one because they're connected: education, workforce development, for which immigration reform forms a part of. But I would also like the public to zoom out for a moment. I picked those 3 because they're really to be solved as a means to an end. The means to that end is to narrow the social economic divide that is existing among our community. We need to have a country that gets back to a community where all Caymanians are participating in and or benefiting from the success of the country. We therefore need to create with that vision a modern and inclusive Cayman. And if we can adopt access to housing, which would then have Caymanians have at all income levels housing, either modular or social transitional housing, have a ready workforce with proper immigration reform, and reduce the cost of living by manipulating our tax code, which is the stamp duty, on goods that are healthy for you, off goods that are healthy for you, and then increase it on junk food, we then begin to get onto a road where we develop a stronger and fairer Cayman. That has to be the new vision going into the next term and decade.
Thank you, Andre. To you, Sterling, same question, please.
Thank you. Education, the quality of life, and as we sadly affectionately call it, the dump. Dump being the primary and most immediate issue that it needs to be addressed. It's been talked about for decades. I remember sitting in the Tower building when Mr. Wally Whitaker was then the director of Department of Environment. I don't mean to date myself, but that wasn't just yesterday. We talked and we talked. What we have seen is some steps to sort of cap the dump, but we need to immediately taper off that, suspend all operations at the dump, and find a suitable facility. We'll expound more as we go through our meetings in the next few weeks. But as we look at building the infrastructure, going east to alleviate some of the things, there must be properties up there that we can identify as a new facility for the dump. If we do that, we're talking about a modern waste management facility, one that is properly sealed, is lined, one that is owned by the government. It doesn't matter who builds it, but we need to understand the cost. It needs to be both feasible and frugally done to ensure that that is one of the single most egregious things that this country faces, has been ignored for decades. The leachate into the North Sound as because of continual rains. The idea that we have potential great worth in the dump. We see businesses elsewhere taking what we call garbage and they're monetizing it. We can do the same. We just need to be more creative, more agile, more willing to stop being, playing games with our children's future, playing games with our own livelihood. If we approach this seriously, from the export of potential tires and glass, whether it's going to be used for asphalt and the like, to doing more to appreciate the impact of what the dump has. We need to look at the personal and environmental impact, the safety to each and every one. Now, education has been batted about. There are many things that we can do. But it all encompasses the third aspect, quality of life, from housing to healthcare, from the cost of living to employment, the opportunities for entrepreneurship. Those three things are interlinked, and at the core of it, if we address the dump, we'll show responsible fiscal prudence, we'll give a demonstration of a genuine commitment to a government who will not only own and manage the facility, but will incorporate something that impacts us on a very daily basis, our health.
Thank you, Sterling.
Sterling, we'll start with you for question number 3. And the next 3 questions are based on the Chamber pillar of advancing quality of life. What can be done to make healthcare more affordable for residents, including retirees, particularly in light of the rising cost of insurance?
There's no question that we have an aging population. And the continued disrespect and disregard that we've shown to our populace is an indictment on not just their contributions, but our failure to recognize the quality of life that they should enjoy in what we've affected the term as their golden years. We need to find a way to ensure there's free health care, not just to the elderly, but perhaps to our very young. Not many of us can remember, but there's a time not long ago when, as school children, we got free health care. It wasn't a socialized program. It was a sense of commitment to the country through appreciating the importance of public goods like education and health care. Now, when we think about what is happening, the expensive health care that it is faced by all of us. But if our elderly, in their retirement, has less and less money to pay for everyday life and now has to find more money to pay for that increased healthcare cost, what are we telling people? You work all your life for nothing at the end of the day? It isn't, sadly, the approach of many to look at health insurance to be something that you only afford if you have the money. It needs to be accessible. It needs to be something that is contributed in some means by government as a public good.
Thank you, Sterling. Andre?
Thank you, Amari. I think for this question, we take a step back. One, and think about what the purpose of health insurance is. It's to ensure that you, as an individual, do not become medically bankrupt. Therefore, the ultimate goal, since this is a human right, is to ensure that there's universal access to health care. Under our current system, you have private, and you also have public, which is mainly cynical. In order to address the question of rising cost from the public standpoint, we have to realign the cynical and investigate the cost that is rising for indigent coverage, because that's the cost driver. When we left office on 31 October, there was a proposal on the table to amend the Health Insurance Act so that there is a definition of medically indigent and align the welfare population or indigent population that's in social development with the budget to merge it with the budget under the health ministry so you can identify what are the cost drivers there and then investigate how you could bring the cost down. On the private side, there's very little financial reporting data coming in from healthcare providers other than HSA. So in order to address the question, I know the country is tired of reports, but this is one instance where you do need data to understand why the premiums are so high, to then be able to investigate how you can bring them down and have funding models that could cover categories such as children and older persons in the future.
Thank you, Andre.
Andre, staying with you and still under the advancing quality of life pillar, focusing more on Barkers and the development. And the question really is, what is your vision for Barkers? Would you protect Barkers as a natural park or develop it as part of our tourism offering?
Thank you for the question, Mike. I think there's a way in which you can do both. This has been a political football that needs to be resolved. If anyone in the public right now can look at the lands registry, you will see that the area of Barkers is a hodgepodge of land ownership, some government, some private, and then also with the island's largest investor in DART. In order to facilitate this, you need to enter into an agreement to preserve it fully, then be able to then assess the value of the property there and see where you can align the pieces of land together to create, one, a national park, and two, an area that can be utilized for a public tourism offering. What's occurring now is that part of that, most of that tourism offering is happening on 7 Mile Beach, which is not working at all. We need to be able to expand our tourism product and then also have a national park, because the ecological value of Barkers is something that Cayman should be deeply proud of and protect, and we can no longer afford for this to be an issue that continues on into the next administration. You need innovative, creative solutions, negotiations with property owners to be able to align the vision and get the job done.
Thank you. Sterling, same question, please.
Barkers is not only enjoyed by West Bayers, but by people from every district, from those who have generational interest to the first-time visitor. Barkers, as part of what we propose, national parks legislation to ensure that its management, use, and entry is not just protected for generations. It's not only been a place where many families would go quietly, it's now become a place that is almost public accessible with the enhanced, quote-unquote, roads that are there. But its use and abuse is almost tacitly encouraged by some because it's out of sight and out of mind. Our national parks legislation would ensure that Barkas is enjoyed in its entirety, as much as possible, retained in its present state. Whatever development the private landowners may have, we are convinced with proper negotiation and discussion, we can incentivize them to utilize the land in not just an environmentally nor ecologically sensible way, but give them a return. Not everything should be about more. In architecture, we talk about less is more. Here's an opportunity to demonstrate that. The country has talked about its tourism product for too long, appreciating that maybe we should look at quantity or quality. Which one is it that we want? Go back to yesteryear when my father, one of the first in what they affectionately call tourism, taking people in about those smaller numbers of people going out in the North Sun, enjoying it. My dad could make more on a trip in the 70s per trip than what many are making today, almost 50 years later. That's not advancing. That's destroying a product that is uniquely Caymanian, something that's attracted many, but for whom those of us who are here can enjoy. Just a sensible approach from reasoned individuals who are coming to the table not to extract, extort, or somehow create this antagonistic approach. We have approach to the national parks legislation that we will propose, and Barkas will be enjoyed in perpetuity.
Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We've gone through the first 4 questions. We're going to take a short commercial break. Please stay tuned.
EV public charging can be a bit tricky to navigate if you're new to the game. But fear not. Here's a little 101 on all things public charging at your CUC charge station. The first tip is to get the mobile app up and ready on your phone before you charge your EV at the charging location. You can scan the QR code to load the app from sitting in your car. Download the mobile app, register a charge account, load money into your charge wallet. You must have a minimum of US $5 balance in your charge wallet to begin a charging session. Scan the QR code again to start a charging session using this charger. You can also enter the station ID number into the app. Follow the instructions on the mobile app to initiate your charging session. Now you're ready to charge your EV. Select either the right or the left charge plug. Plug your car in and make sure it shows as charging on your dashboard. Charging for 1 hour will give you up to 35 miles of charge. Charging to 80% optimizes battery life and reduces the risk of overcharging. So in that time, you can shop or go to work or chat with fellow EV owners. It's a real community out there. Great to see you, Maya. Happy charging, everyone. See you on the road.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for West Bay South. Gone through first 4 questions. We're staying on the Chamber pillar, advancing quality of life. And the next topic will be affordable housing. Turn it over to Amari.
Thank you, Will. Sterling, we'll start with you for question number 5. Would you support multi-story affordable housing in West Bay South? If yes, how would you ensure fair and needs-based access for Caymanians? And if not, what would your recommended solution be?
There's always a dream of everybody to own his or her own home. Recognizing that we have limited land mass, I always say to friends that we seem to approach the development of Cayman on Japanese-sized land with Texas-style ideals. We need to look closely at increasing the densities where appropriate, but I do not think having large multi-story buildings akin to projects is what Caymanians want. We like our yard space and our outdoor areas. We need to create communities where the densities are there but allowing the privacy. We need to be mindful that the cost of housing isn't just driven by construction costs from the labor, the importation of materials, but perhaps the technologies we employ. We need to also understand that sometimes the government bureaucracy can either impede and inhibit development and the construction of your home, and those costs can translate. But what about the cost of financing? The cost of capital for businesses is something that is fundamental to that business getting established but being successful. So too is it for the homeowner. Perhaps we need to rethink how we approach the lending. We have a demand loan that some people think is a mortgage, whether it's spread over 15 years or 30 years. A fixed, favorable rate, whether underscored by government, not the government-guaranteed home mortgage scheme, but something that's genuine, real, accessible, so that you recognize the importance that that investment in your home is probably your most single largest investment. Giving people pride, as we all are, but not allowing them to feel relegated to the margins and put into some place where there's a reservation or a project, whether it's 5 stories or 15. Your postage stamp size parcel could be as enjoyed as your Texas-style mansion. Ask the community what they want, they will tell you. But the importance is to ensure that the parliamentarians appreciate that when they look at land zoning, that you can enjoy your space in a way that gives you the privacy, the decency, but also the respect, because you now have a semblance of pride in your space that is owned by you.
Thank you, Sterling. Andre?
Thank you, Amari. The short answer to the question is yes. But again, this question is encapsulated in a much larger issue that we need to discuss. This relates to the bugbear that has been bothering the country and needs to be resolved of a national development plan. To just look at only West Bay South without looking at the entire country is not a comprehensive view. Now, what I would like to convey is that this isn't pie in the sky. A lot of good work has gone into Plan Cayman. It's available on the website now. That plan is not far off and should not take the next administration very long to implement, even if there are modifications. It discusses a wide range of issues. It discusses sustainability, climate change, access for housing at all levels, zones, where you can go high and where you may need to have social housing. All of these things can and should be done because land in Cayman is finite. We can't go wide forever. We're going to have to consider going higher. The question to resolve in each community and each zone is how high and where should be preserved for heritage and preservation, cultural preservation. So I think in order to expedite it, you do need the new relabeled home program, which was the GGM program that's now been reignited. You do need deeper stamp duty breaks to get Caymanians onto the property ladder. You do need to accelerate NHDT where there's either Crown land and you're working in partnership to have either subsidized building and loans through the development bank and or built homes and resolve social housing as well, because those who are part of the financial assistance clientele and indigent clientele also need housing, because right now it's only reliant on private sector landlords, and that is unsustainable and has been for some time and needs to be resolved.
Thank you, Andre.
Andre, staying with you for the next question, which is shifting gears a little bit into the next chamber pillar of building a future-ready workforce. And the question is talking about immigration policy. How would you balance immigration reform with the labor needs of businesses that cannot find qualified Caymanians?
Thank you, Mike, for the question. This is where I think there is great need for the country to pay attention to the Chamber's advocacy for a national human capital development plan. I believe that every well-intended person can say that the immigration system right now isn't working for anyone. From the Caymanian standpoint, there's no way in which you can challenge a work permit that ought not to have been issued if you have evidence. And from the employer standpoint, the system takes quite long. And because a lot of our businesses have gone global, there's now a lot of outsourcing. What we need to develop is a program, which was the key in the question of the balance, of whereby the Caymanian has greater protections, but coupled with that, immigration reform, whereby you incentivize firms who are good corporate citizens and providing jobs here and incentives to bring back jobs that are overseas, particularly those that are at uni graduate level or master's graduate level, to plant those jobs here in Cayman, so that a Caymanian who is ready can take that job, realign the PR point system, so instead of just purchasing land to get PR, and increase the fees that you can have for PR for independent means, and tuck that into a social development fund. So if and when there are Caymanians who are not quite ready, government can use that fund for the additional training to get them ready, so that when the work permit is up, the Caymanian slots into the job. What you want is a system where the two halves are working as a whole. We also need to apply the rollover policy to the civil service on a phased basis. And in addition to that, we need to align data between portfolio of civil service, education secretariat, and work to see where the pipeline of Caymanians that are coming out and match them to the industries, so that you have a proper workforce development plan.
Thank you, Andre. Sterling, same question, please.
When we look at immigration, many would contend that we should look at moratoriums and quotas and the like. Not particularly in favor of such. They tend to be arbitrary. They tend to change with the changing political cycle. We need to look at a country and decide where does it want to be, not in the next election. We propose looking at a 100-year plan. One that's broken down into 5 tranches of 20, further broken down to the 4 tranches of, all right? So that each 5 years you have a living, breathing document, not unlike a constitution that needs to be reviewed. We're going to propose a national jobs program for our 16 to 26 years old. From that high school student who's on the eve of graduation to the returning college grad that still needs assistance. We also look at things that are important from primary school, practical ideals that bring to fruition the skill sets of the youth as we nurture them, not just in their math or their reading, writing, and arithmetic, but in developing all of the skill sets needed in their community. We somehow disrespectfully term it the trades or technical and vocational training, but every learning, every job is valuable. Every person, whether the employee or the entrepreneur, can contribute and benefit from the economy. Those who are here and they come in, for argument's sake, on a work permit, they're permitted to enter. If they graduate TOE, PR, and or status, it has to be merit-based. As the Chamber partners with government, as it has in the past, under our administration, we'll invite that participation, we'll welcome it. But the partnership has to extend initially and immediately to every single school child who's entering the education system, to develop them, to appreciate in them that they may actually have a calling. They just need to be nurtured and developed. They may be like many of us. We retire after 40 years of work and never enjoyed a day, but because of our work ethic, we went. But we can harness that energy if we're genuinely committed to the fulfillment of their lives. The Japanese philosophy of ikigai, where you have a purpose. That purpose can be nurtured, inculcated, once it's identified. We're losing generations of Caymanians We're growingly divided because men who come here are not culturally sensitive, but they're not acclimated, they're not integrated, they don't feel welcome. I meet people who have been here for 40 plus years, some who went to school with me, and they still feel like outsiders. That can't be right.
Thank you, sir.
Sterling, we'll start with you for question number 7, which is on education outcomes. Public school students continue to struggle with maths and English, core skills needed for higher education and the workforce of today and tomorrow. What specific actions would you take to improve student performance in these subjects and better prepare them for future opportunities?
For me, education and health are the two pillars of any society. Sadly, education has been a political football for as long as I've been around politics directly, having had the opportunity to first vote in the 1988 election. Reading the Northwestern magazine from, 5 decades ago, you still see the same discussions today. We spend a lot of money on education, from the construction of buildings to the supposed deployment of latest technology. This country needs to undertake a skills gap analysis to look both at its education outcomes, but the quality of teaching and learning. We don't need a $300 million school. Back in the days of my parents, and you hear generations now talk about, learning under the breadfruit tree. We can teach and learn if we have the propensity and the sensitivity and the respect to instruct in a way that gives people a sense that whether they get an A on an exam or they struggle through their whole secondary education, they are positioned to be meaningful and beneficial members of our society. When we look at testing, we are almost inclined to believe that the grades that the child gets is indicative of that child's success. If we were to use PISA as a way to assess and maybe significantly rethink and revamp our education so that it isn't just the outcomes for the top tier performing students, but it's the acknowledgement that our teaching and learning transpires as much in the classroom as outside. Our children can't be in schools where they feel unsafe. They can't be in schools where it's a babysitting exercise, but they can't be in schools just because they're academically engaged that they're going to be given busy work and feel it as a punitive measure. We're not teaching to the supposedly gifted and talented, nor are we looking at those who have learning challenges. A lot is being said, but little is being done.
Thank you, Sterling. Andre?
Thank you, Omari, for the question. To answer in terms of specific actions, I think we need to return to reintegration of our schools. One of the ways in which we do that, because it can't happen now, is also you need to build better capacity, physical capacity for our schools, which is why there was such tension about a school that's built in the BRAC for $50 million. Not that they don't need an upgraded facility, but we need to be able to share in that CapEx so that we can have increased facilities throughout the island and get back to reintegration. Because you learn with your peers and create one community rather than a segregated society. In addition to that, we have to also have a greater attention on early education. Studies show that where you're able to course correct a child in math and English at an early stage, their development, it has a much greater prospect of success than when that deficiency stays active for much longer in the child's lifetime. In addition to that, what has now been a political football for ages has now become urgent in terms of TVET. The reason that I say that it's urgent and we can no longer afford to dilly-dally, particularly in math and English, is because AI is coming like a freight train. The curriculum has to be tilted to the jobs of the future. It doesn't mean that our children will be without jobs. It just means that when it comes in terms of coding, machine learning, digital currencies, we have to be able to have our workforce that can assist in the technology than to be trained for a job that's going to be gobbled up by the technology. But the reason that I say TVET is because those jobs are at the moment immune to AI in terms of electricians, mechanics, plumbers. So in order to return to the prior question of the balance, you need to be able to have TVET for those who are interested in those subjects that are not going to be gobbled up by AI, and those who will then participate in the machine economy and digital economy that is coming.
Thank you, Andre.
Andre, staying with you for the next question, which is on the subject of a national human capital development plan. The question is, given the high number of work permit holders alongside unemployed and underemployed Caymanians, do you support the creation of a national human capital development plan? If so, which stakeholders should be involved, and why is this important for Caymanians? If not, what alternative approach would you take to improve job access and career growth for Caymanians? It's quite a long question.
It is a long question, Mike, but I believe I already answered it. So I want to apply my answer and summarize it to this question, which is, again, to recap from the prior question, applaud the Chamber for its advocacy in this area of a human capital development plan, have the balance in the immigration that I outlined in my prior answer. In addition to that, the stakeholders that I think need to be at the table are not just private sector, but I also mentioned the portfolio of the civil service, where civil service jobs are there. In addition to that, Education Secretariat, and in addition to that, work, the Department of Work, that are sitting on reams of data of how we can have an assembly line of Caymanians. And what I mentioned earlier, maybe to re-emphasize in terms of incentivizing using a carrot rather than a stick for large employees, maybe I could utilize this time to drill down on that point a bit more. As our firms become more global and are also being bought up and merged, they then can do and plant jobs in other jurisdictions. And it's very, very difficult for work to be able to police that. In order to bring that home, you give them fee incentives to plant the jobs here. That way, even if initially the Caymanian doesn't have the job, and use the tools that I mentioned in my prior answer to train Caymanians for the job, it should be known up front by the work permit holder that once the Caymanian is there in a real and enforceable way, the Caymanian then takes over the job so that you create the balance. But ultimately, we may not have enough Caymanians to be able to fill the jobs, and you may still need work, but then it would be down to strictly needed labor, which then ties into a then more assimilated, stricter PR system, which then means that we're getting valued Caymanian citizens at the end of the day for status when it has been achieved in a meritorious way.
Thank you, Andre. Sterling, to you, the same question.
In a society, if education is not paramount, and it isn't just measured by the academics, we need to look at the student who is either interested in or shown an aptitude for mechanics, the things that we call, the trades. To me, those are the smartest people. That individual who may initially exhibit a propensity for carpentry could become your next surgeon. By limiting that child's progress simply because we have somehow pigeonholed them into a thing, we deny them opportunity at age 5 as to what they could be at age 25. Key to the society's development and part of the national infrastructure development is looking at a human resource or people. It is no different to what attracted and made Cayman the tourism mecca. It was the people. The people are our resources. We repeat it till it has become a cliche. When we look at the necessity of engaging all, from the government through its funding and construction of facilities, to the private sector's investment, to the skill sets, whether it's the private school or the private sector employer, to the home. That integration and inclusion will be something that we will cement in our policies, because through that learning isn't just in the classroom. It's a social interaction that takes place. Learning comes not, as some would say, by osmosis, but by engagement and interaction. For us, the idea isn't just to test a child. Take as an example, we're a parent of a child with a report card, and there are 9 A's and 1 that is not an A. We will spend almost an hour getting that child to focus on that grade that is not an A to the detriment of the 9 A's we are not seeing the big picture. The future workforce, the fact that in the Cayman context there are more jobs, right, that there are people to fill them, shows that we have fundamentally gotten it wrong relative to our development. What has to happen is an opportunity to sit back, step, and engage all and sundry alike with a view that as we move forward in the next 10 years, the next 100 years, the society reflects an ethos that values education as a pillar it is, but more than just an academic pursuit or some accolade or some achievement. It's about contribution. The people we need as much as anything else, the plumber as the physician, the educator as the engineer.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. On to the first two sets of questions. We're going to take a short commercial break, and we move on to the final round. Please stay tuned.
At CUC, we care about helping our customers. Here are some quick energy-saving tips from CUC, so you can use less energy and save money. Set your AC Smart thermostat to maintain an indoor temperature of 87 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you are away from home, and have the temperature cool to a comfortable 78 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you arrive home. Adding insulation can cut your cooling costs by 15 to 45%, depending on your home's size and current insulation. Focus on insulating your attic, walls, and windows for the best results. For your laundry, avoid over-drying clothes. Not only does it waste energy, but it also harms fabrics. Dry towels and heavier cottons separately from lighter weight fabrics to save energy. Your TV and gaming setup can be big energy consumers. Save costs by reducing in-game settings and turning off your console when not in use. Remember, every small step counts. Use energy wisely and make a big difference in your energy bills and the environment.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for West Bay South. Gone through the first 8 questions. Now we move on to the Chamber Pillar Sustaining Economic Success, and the first questions about the Cayman Turtle Center's funding. Over to you.
Thanks, Will. Sterling, we'll start with you for question number 9. With cruise revenues down, would you support increasing government funding for the Cayman Turtle Center, exploring alternative funding sources, or seeking cost-cutting measures? Kindly explain your position.
Too many times, entities like the turtle farm, as we call it, some of us who harken back to the days when it's referred to as mariculture, when it seemed to have been more profitable, even research-based at that point. Like too many projects in the past, there have been significant cost overruns, political interference, or at least perceptions or allegations of such. With the Turtle Center, there is an opportunity to grow it as a tourism product. But like many other entities, statutory or otherwise, they need to find a way to be more self-sustaining. There cannot be a burden on government coffers at the expense of investments in infrastructure, education, healthcare, and the like. If we were to be serious and sincere about our approach to certain facilities, we may ask the tough questions. It isn't to disparage the individuals, nor punish, penalize, or otherwise let them feel that they're disrespected or unappreciated. It's about recognizing that if it was your money, what would you do? The money that is expended by government is, in fact, our children's money. We have, without question, an incumbent obligation to ensure that we get value for money in every penny that government spends. The tourism attraction of the turtle farm is no different than its appeal to the local populace, but its access and engagement sometimes hindered, limited, or otherwise specifically directed to one segment without it being inclusive. More of its funding could come from the local population if we understood the merits of it. Perhaps its research capacity could be extended. Perhaps its offerings could be aligned to not somehow compete with itself. You have one entertainment facility with an environmental park. Are they at odds, or can they be cohesive?
Thank you, Sterling. Andre?
Thank you, Omari. In full disclosure, my father, Atlee Ebanks, who sat right there, is on the board of the Turtle Center. So I wanted to make that transparent to the public, but my answer is not based on any conversation with him. It's based on my experience as a minister and listening to the discussions around the caucus table and also visiting the Turtle Center from time to time. I would not agree to increasing the subsidy at the moment because I think that there are ways to specifically answer the question in which, while cruise is down, for the Turtle Center to have more effort in attracting stayover and additional attractions to bring the stayover passengers or stayover visitors to the Turtle Center. In addition to that, while that is developing and they're also looking to cut costs, we have to be mindful that this is an important facility or important attraction to West Bay. Majority of the employees are Caymanian, and I think the majority of that majority are mainly West Bayers. So while that body of work is happening to attract more stayover, the other proposal that was in caucus was whether or not to have, and at least explore, a cruise facility off of the Turtle Center, so that you could then be able to then bolster a cruise out of what we believe would be a less environmentally impactful area. Most of the taxi and tour operators are West Bayers. They can pick up passengers. West Bay right now has the best thoroughfares back and forth in town to support the businesses in town. And while that's coming online, think ahead in the future of the Turtle Center or whether they need to be able to grow other sea life, lobster and shrimp, to really make this an exciting center, place where Caymanians can actually live and work, and then over time reduce the subsidy the government is giving to it right now.
Thank you, Andre.
Andre, the next question focuses on the cargo port relocation or potential relocation. Grand Cayman's increasing population is placing increasing stress on the Georgetown cargo port. Should improving or relocating the cargo port be a priority for the next government? If yes, how would you fund the costs?
Thank you, Mike, for the question. It is a priority because the current facility is not sufficient. But I don't think we're at a stage yet where we can decide whether or not it has to be relocated, because I think a very viable proposal is to enhance it where it is. So this then is connected to the prior question. If you then segregate the cruise tourism aspect of it and at least get started in West Bay, you then may have capacity to enhance the existing cargo facility, which now needs that. That would then be a more viable plan that might be able to be funded by just reallocation and less wasteful spending in the budget, much more affordable plan, and be able to kill two birds with one stone. If after additional study it is thought that perhaps it's best to move it out of town, I don't think our Caymanian Community Party would necessarily be opposed to that, but I don't necessarily want us to take our eye off the ball, that it may just be able to be enhanced where it is.
Thank you. Sterling, same question for you, please.
We shouldn't duplicate efforts when the economic and social costs are exorbitant. The existing cargo facility can be expanded, enhanced and renovated on the present site with just a little tweaking to the north of the site. There are existing buildings there that could either be redeveloped or demolished in order to accomplish an enhanced cargo facility. That is the lifeline to this country. It's where all our goods come in, from our foodstuffs to our building materials. The priority and emphasis needs to be on our cargo facility to ensure that we are not just providing for the populace, but any future growth, whether in the next 50 years or 100, but what's going to happen in the next 5 months. We look at redundancies in business. Is there a contingency plan for cargo? What's going to happen in the unlikely event of some natural disaster, be it a hurricane, a nor'wester, or an earthquake, and the facility is destroyed? We need to start thinking about the socioeconomic impact of what we're doing, when we're doing it, and how we're doing it. The cargo facility needs to be a key priority, and is one of the things that we're going to look at immediately, not just because of the economic financial cost, but as a social impact on our society. Redeveloping it where it's at, expanding it, and allowing the use to benefit the country by reduced costs through more frequent and accessible goods that come through the port, but also understanding the importance of the cargo's facility over the last 5 decades, where it's at. To put, for instance, a similar facility in Northwest Point, the environmental impact there could be significant. The existing dive sites, I won't get into the geological sort of impact, the environmental waves and the light that would come because of the currents coming around Northwest Point, similar to Southwest Point. But that's not a place to put any major facility if it's going to destroy something that's already pristine. Use what we have, use it with a view that as we go forward, the country can then decide if a better location is warranted at that time.
Thank you.
Sterling, we'll start with you for question number 11, which is on constitution review. Would you support a constitutional review to explore reforms such as term limits, member of parliament recall provisions, or changes to the current single-member constituency system? Kindly explain your position.
It is seemingly politically convenient that we would consider term limits, and many, I think, are encouraged by it. A caution, we're a small population, 25,000 roughly voters. If we arbitrarily place term limits on either the Premier, Cabinet, or other members of the House, are we denying the populace as the ultimate arbiters of who should be elected? The idea of recall should have been included in the last Constitution, and it would be something that we would like to see immediately employed, giving voters in a democracy that right to be able to say to the elected that you're not performing. It won't be something that can be done easily. There has to be a threshold, but one that is attainable, provided sufficient numbers understand the merit of recalling that ineffectiveness of that then elected individual. I'll go further in asking the country to consider reform relative to how and we vote for individuals relative to the national vote for both cabinet and premier. Those individuals elected there are on a small constituency basis, but they make a meaningful impact and immediate and direct on the entire country. But we're also doing that individual a disservice. You cannot serve two masters. Being in the cabinet requires you to have to pay attention to your constitutional responsibilities per your portfolio, but you better pay attention to your individual constituency. Now, for me, national vote for Premier and Cabinet is an option. It's not the only option, but we have to have the will to do so. It may not be convenient for the elected because they have a larger mass to canvass. But for the country and the country's good, it is imperative that we do that so that the accountability is at a national level, the contribution is at a national level, and because the impact is at a national level, we should have a national say in electing those individuals.
Thank you, Sterling. Andre?
Thank you, Omari. To answer the question as it's written, to explore reforms, yes. I say that for a number of reasons. One, now this is a question where I would agree is valid and worthy of a referendum. But you'd have to start early in a term. This type of reform could not start in, say, year 3. You'd have to start it right away because you'd have to be able to then assess the options that are available to move to, get public education and consultation for the public to understand and be able to properly vote in a referendum, bring in the reforms, and then have the education and the elections office be able to properly prepare the voting populace by the next election. That's a lot of work to do, so you'd have to start early. As it relates to term limits, there already is a term limit for the premier under the Constitution. And for other members, the term limit is the election. Now, the bugbear in the system that I think is on lots of voters' mind as I canvass is whether or not the single member constituency is fit for purpose. And based on whether or not, since we are now a sophisticated jurisdiction with $1 billion budget, massive ministry subjects and portfolios, whether or not there needs to be a bicameral system where the country gets a say in who's actually running and operating these ministries. In my case, I had 2. Should I just be elected by only the members of West Bay South? But you'd have to find a system where there's still a degree of accountability and that the relevant member can be held to account after each election. But in short, yes, this is a valid issue that needs to be explored early in the next administration, because I don't think there's many voters that are quite happy with the existing system. We should explore it.
Thank you, Andre.
Andre, for the last question, you actually just touched on one of the points here is on the subject of government spending. And it's with a population of under 90,000, Cayman now generates over $1 billion in revenue annually, yet nearly all of it is spent. If elected, what specific changes would you make to government spending to reduce waste and improve efficiency?
Thank you for the question. Yes, there's a number of specific actions that can be taken. Number one, I think we need to now move away from the existing or enhance the existing system and move to what my chief officers would say is outcome-based budgeting. What happens now is that the pie is the pie. Everybody chucks into their request into caucus, are used to their historical slices, and that's how the pie is divided up, and you don't really get a chance to drill down to see what's being spent. You need much greater clarity, increase and enhance reporting of annual reports, and get to the nitty-gritty so that you can realign the budget in a way that you're maximizing the areas that generate a profit for the country, reduce the waste just because historically the hangover is always there. So, for example, let's take financial services. The budget for financial services is not in any way commensurate with the revenue that it brings for the country. So, yes, reallocation to supercharge financial services in terms of its agency, promotions of the industry, might then yield within a 4-year period more profit that you could then apply at the tail end of an administration to do other services. But in the meantime, we need to have outcome-based budgeting to say, where can we make money? That's where the budget should be applied, and then over time be able to have those, reap the benefits of those rewards, and then apply it to other services as the country's making money.
Thank you. Sterling, same question, please.
I think we need to just take a rethink of governance. We need to look at ways to be more creative to revamping our systems of governance. We need to look at attaining more efficiencies, be more agile. Look at, for example, in the 90s under Governor Owen, this reinventing government initiative. Whatever we do has to be balanced, has to be measured. We have to think about it so that the lives of the individuals in the civil service, they are hardworking, intelligent, delegated, and dedicated civil servants. But unfortunately, we have stifled their creativity. The entrepreneurial nature that exists in the civil service can be harnessed to the betterment of the country. Now, when we approach that, we can see a number of things that would be beneficial. The Auditor General's report, for instance, just indicated that there was, almost $700 million, $1 billion of expenditure in the last couple of years, for little or nothing to be sort of visually demonstrated by the existing government as to what has been achieved. Parliamentarians seem to believe there's a license to spend the money because it's a printing press somewhere. That's going to cost us now in terms of what we're going to pay for it. But more importantly, it's going to hamstring our children's ability for education, for healthcare, for infrastructure. The efficiencies in government can be realized many times with the parliamentarians themselves who step aside and be honorable, have humility, have integrity, have a consciousness. Take an economic approach to expenditure, not looking at white elephants to placate their personal ambitions. It's not about just doing something now for our electoral win in the next 4 years. It's about recognizing that many things that we do now cannot be undone. That $1 billion that is spent, nothing to show for, is an indictment and perhaps needs to be sanctioned in a way where the electorate at this election understands the importance of being engaged, involved, and informed, and ensure that the expenditures of government are reasonable, are managed, and are responsible.
Well, thank you very much, candidates. We've gone through 12 questions. That was the final round of questions. We're now going to move on to a short commercial break. And when we return, we're going to have the closing remarks from each of our candidates. Please stay tuned.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Why is my bill higher? These days, it might seem like the cost of everything is going up here in Cayman. When it comes to your energy bill, this may be no exception. You may be wondering why your bill is higher when you haven't done anything different in your home. Here are some common factors that will increase your energy usage. As temperatures outside increase, your air conditioning unit has to run longer to keep your house cool, even if you haven't adjusted the thermostat. During the summer months, cooling your home can make up more than half of your energy bill. It's important to maintain your AC so that it can function as efficiently as possible. Changing your AC filters can also help with ensuring units are functioning properly. Remember, for every degree you turn up your thermostat, you can save on your monthly energy cost. Turn off your AC when no one is home. Thermostat should not be set any lower than 78 degrees. Also consider closing blinds and drapes on the sunny side of your home. This will help reduce the temperature inside your home. Remember to consider energy waste. Think about the items in your home that are using energy, like gaming computers and ceiling fans. Always unplug and turn these items off when they are not in use or needed. This will help you conserve. Now that you have some energy saving tips, you can track your consumption daily on MyCUC. Learn more at www.cuc-cayman.com.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forums. We've gone through the 12 questions for this evening. It's now time for each of our candidates to deliver their closing remarks. We're going to begin with Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Honored to sit in this seat, the prospect of being the next MP for West Bay South. It is the intent to not just immediately introduce district councils, to champion the notion of a national vote for premier and cabinet, but it's about paying justice to inclusion, to inviting every single voter and resident to participate in a democracy by becoming engaged, involved, and informed. There are a couple of capital works projects that we want to set about. The construction of a purpose-built Sunrise Adult Training Center, the expansion of the Golden Age Home, and the expansion of the district health centers, not just in West Bay, but across the country. Education and health are pillars of our community. They ensure that our people are healthy and they are educated and they can take advantage of all of the employment and entrepreneurial opportunities. They are public goods. They need to be funded by government, they need to be accessible to all of our citizens, and they need to be beneficial to their quality of life. We launched our manifesto to the media on Monday. We're inviting the public to come Saturday evening on the empty lot across from Foster's Republics in West Bay for our manifesto launch. We are a small group, one individual candidate with the ability to look across all political divides, with a sense of an invitation to all of the other 18 who will be elected to join us in putting forward a true and genuine commitment to country by ensuring that we have fiscal prudence, we have social responsibility, that reports to the Commission are not just shelves. There are three things that our campaign would embody. We call them, our pillars. There's a Christ Project, there's this thing we call EAGLE, and ESTRI. The Economic and Social Development Research Institute is going to be our think tank to help us to formulate policy. It looks at, for instance, establishing a sovereign wealth fund. Under the EAGLE project, education, agriculture, leadership, and entrepreneurship will be our pillars. And the Christ Project speaks to our ethos, but it talks about the community helping to restore itself through spiritual togetherness. I was honored to be part of the Indian community's Diwali celebration, and to see a nation of 1 billion plus represented in the Cayman across all of its religious preferences and differences, united in love and unity and food and fellowship and dance and celebration. If 1 billion people can do it, surely our measly 100,000 can. We come together. The invitation is once again this coming Saturday evening, 7 p.m. on the empty lot across from Foster's for a manifesto launch.
Mr. Andre Ebanks.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, Chamber, for organizing this forum for West Bay South. Thank you to my opponent for participating. I think we've had a fruitful and interesting discussion in which we have addressed issues at a country level, at a district level, and at a constituency level. So many of you that I have gotten to know in West Bay South, we're proud of the body of work that has been accomplished, from roadworks and drains, revamping social development legislation that impacts all spectrums of the community, particularly older persons, children, adoptions, coming in with a plan to enhance our financial services, get off all of the international list, develop new business lines, reinsurance, family office, tech to provide jobs and opportunities for our pupils and also older persons. And then to be able to help to secure our borders by putting in place the foundation for a national ID card so Caymanians have one document to show that they are Caymanians and help all of our authorities better police our borders. With that level of body of work and continuing to work even when in opposition, it is difficult on an ordinary day to bring bills and legislation, landmark legislation, as I have done with the full force and resources of the government behind you. It's an even challenging task to do so from the opposition benches, where I continue to work for you even when I wasn't a minister and champion the landmark children's legislative provision of the Shemaiah Grant Order, where families who have lost a working parent through drunk driving, the court now has tools to be able to make restitution to that family. If you want that sort of creativity, that sort of drive and passion to continue West Bay South with a unified team, with all ministers working at pace, backed by parliamentary secretaries and caucus, then on the 30th of April, if you have had enough of politics as usual, if you have had enough of special interests slowing down and stymieing the interests of the country as a whole, then vote for Andre Ebanks' re-election in West Bay South and the Caymanian Community Party to take this country to its heights and potential to be superb for all of us.
Well, thank you, candidates. It's now time for the closing remarks, and I'm going to turn it over to Chamber President Omari Corbin.
Thank you, Will. On behalf of the Chamber Council and staff, I would like to thank Mr. Andre Ebanks and Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks for participating in this evening's forum. I trust that this forum will help West Bay South voters make informed decisions about who to vote for when they go to the polls on April 30th. I would also like to thank Ashley Furniture and Home Store, CUC, Foster's, and Logic for sponsoring the Chamber's candidate forums. Please join us tomorrow evening as we welcome the two candidates from Georgetown North, Joseph Yu and Romelia Welcome. Please note that all forums will be posted on the Chamber's YouTube channel for your future reference. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope that you will join us tomorrow evening. Please have a restful night.
EV public charging can be a bit tricky to navigate if you're new to the game. But fear not. Here's a little 101 on all things public charging at your CUC charge station. The first tip is to get the mobile app up and ready on your phone before you charge your EV at the charging location. You can scan the QR code to load the app from sitting in your car. Download the mobile app, register a charge account, load money into your charge wallet. You must have a minimum of US $5 balance in your charge wallet to begin a charging session. Scan the QR code again to start a charging session using this charger. You can also enter the station ID number into the app. Follow the instructions on the mobile app to initiate your charging session. Now you're ready to charge your EV. Select either the right or the left charge plug. Plug your car in and make sure it shows as charging on your dashboard. Charging for 1 hour will give you up to 35 miles of charge. Charging to 80% optimizes battery life and reduces the risk of overcharging. So in that time, you can shop or go to work or chat with fellow EV owners. It's a real community out there. Great to see you, Maya. Happy charging, everyone. See you on the road.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.